take it to the other side. You know I used to smoke too much, and you know I used to drink too much. Take a ride in my car, and you can get me high, high, high. You know I used to smoke too much, and you know I used to drink too much. Take a ride in my car, and we're gonna get real. I'm feeling good, my little lady. She's gonna take me to the other side. I'm feeling nice, my little lady. She's gonna keep me moving on. I'm gonna run till I drop to the break of dawn. Never gonna stop, she's gonna treat me right. I'm feeling good, my little lady. She's gonna take me to the other side. You know I used to smoke too much, and you know I used to drink too much. Take a ride in my car, and you can get me high, high, high. You know I used to smoke too much, and you know I used to drink too much. Take a ride in my car, and we're gonna get real. Come on, baby. Let's take a ride. I don't know where we're gonna go, but first, let's dance. I used to drink too much, take a ride in my car, and you can get me high, high, high. You know I used to smoke too much, and you know I used to drink too much. Take a ride in my car, and we're gonna get real. Oh.
Hi everyone, Dan here, and I just wanted to put a little snippet about AstroWorld and what we do because I want to start getting the word out because I think it's becoming more and more of a giant community, and I want to get the word out to some other people. So what we do at AstroWorld is we hold astrophotography chats on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we just talk astrophotography. Wednesday's more of a techie kind of advanced intermediate, and Fridays is more of a newbie kind of thing. So if you want to check us out, and if you want to, hang out with some semi-decent people that like to go off the rails a little bit and have fun while they're doing it, come check us out at astroworldweb.com, and you can check out the schedule, and you can sign up for all the free giveaways that we do. We just gave away an Eagle 4 Pro, an Optolong filter kit, Charles Brackenstein's books, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So come to astroworldweb.com, hang out with us, have a good time, and as always, remember to keep imaging, keep educating, and clear skies. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Things are becoming intense. I rip my jeans on your fence, hiding away from your man. Oh, it's a passion. Oh, tell a tale of 1,000 lonely days. Yes, she's a real thing. Yeah, only I can make a change. If you want to be together, it's so good to be together.
Guess I got no one to blame. Yeah, it's a small town. Yeah, all the people turn and stare. Oh, it's a secret. Hey, let them see me. I don't care if you want to be together. It's so good to be together with you. If you want to be together. If you want to be together, it's so good to be together with you. If you want to be together, say you want to be together. I'm feeling really guilty, but it feels so bad. Yeah, so good to be together. We did it before, we can do it again. I'm tearing out my head, all that down the wind, so good. You want to be together, yeah. It's so good to be together, yeah, so damn good. If you want to be together, it's so good, yeah. What the hell's wrong with my telescope now? Yeah, what's wrong with this thing?
The lost Lone Ranger, can I break this spell? If I do one thing right, do I make you two things wrong? If I want to stand by the line, do I will always take the fall? If I just do the left, I can live from the right. I sleep all day long, and then I'm breathing through the night.
I wonder what it was that made me want you. She couldn't understand what made me hard. She's climbing in and out my open window. I'm laying here alone and cold and drained. Yeah. So take another breath and come up for your oxygen. And now you wanna kiss the flesh and blood of every man, every man. And when the moon is full and the wolves were held, she swam across the lake just to get to my house. Yeah. And she said, I want more.
me more, disgusting stuff. I want more, a little bit of, give me more, disgusting stuff. Disgusting stuff. She looks upon a world that's dark and tangled. I never saw her turn her head in shame. She is standing out the open window. I ain't here alone, cold and gray. So take another breath and come up for your oxygen. Hey, you know you wanna kiss the flesh and blood of every man, every man. Well, we all took turns and you swallowed the world. I never realized that you sat with us, man. And she said, I want more. Give me more disgusting stuff. A little bit of disgusting stuff. Disgusting stuff. You're making me sad. Well, we all took turns and you swallowed the world. I never realized that you sat with us, man. She said, I want more. Give me more disgusting stuff.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? We made it. We made it on time, and we're just gonna make a quick change, real quick. There we go. And sorry, why did your name come up, Jesse? I apologize about that. How's it going, everybody? We made it. We're here today with Bob Denny. Yeah, for his second appearance on AstroWorld. So welcome back, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. I see you're donning the AstroWorld shirt, so thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm looking at my own reflection. That right there.
Nice. But we'll get to Don in a little bit, and right now we got to go through. We got some really good news, and I just want to talk about our sponsors real quick. So we'll do that really quick here. And here we go. So we got, for those of you that, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently today. And let's see if I could do this on the fly. And no, I can't. Okay. So we have some corporate sponsors here that do give us giveaways. If it's your first time on the show, checking us out, welcome to the show. We do have corporate sponsors who give us stuff like cash for giveaways or gifts or whatever for giveaways. So we got to give them a shout out because we want to thank them very much. So our first sponsor that we have is Woodland Hills Camera and Telescopes. We get cash from them that we give away, I believe, $50 gift certificates here and there throughout the year, plus two big $250 gift certificates at the end of the year. So that's always nice. So thank you to Farah and Woodland Hills and the team over there. We also have at our Red Giant level, Prima Luce. That one always goes so fast. I got to fix that. Prima Luce Lab, Camera Concepts, and Optolong. Optolong, finally, I got in touch with Jessica. Jessica is sending us more filters for giveaways for this year. So thank you to Jessica. Hopefully, they're just as gracious as they were to us in 2022. They gave us L Extreme, L Enhance, SHO 3nm sets. I mean, they were really, really good to us. So thank you to them. Camera Concepts also. gives us giveaways. Who is that? Is that Eric? I gotta mute Eric. he's getting loud. So giveaways all year. So be on the lookout for more giveaways. Super Giant level, and we're giving away a 1-year subscription tonight for IP4AP. And if you don't know what IP4AP is, you're missing out, because they're a really good resource for tutorials regarding Masters of PixInsight or Photoshop, which is where they cut their teeth on, and they continue to be relevant with Photoshop and how to kind of incorporate that into your workflow. Really cool stuff. Almost the same type of business. They're run by the same guys, but Masters of PixInsight, they give us one free Masters of PixInsight workshop to give away a week every Friday night for the past year and a half. So thank you to Ron, Pete, and Warren. Appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. So we got some member sponsor changes that we want to go over. The Off the Rails members have not changed. So thank you to the Off the Rails members, Sean, who's in the chat, and I believe Bob is also in the chat. So how you doing, guys? Thank you so much for being a supporter of us. Followed by our Quasar members. And like I mentioned, Chris Frierickson, who had 3 different Patreon subscriptions, finally consolidated all of them to become a Quasar member. And he is now a Quasar member with John and Dr. Ascari. So thank you again as well. Black Hole members made a change also. Dave upgraded his membership to a Black Hole member, so he joined Dan, Mike, George, and Charity. So thank you so much to you guys. Followed by our 2 Red Giant members, Bob and Deborah. And I'm not going over all the rest, but there's too many. Our main sequence members, thank you so much. White Dwarf and Protostar. So thank you so much for everybody's support. So guest speakers tonight, we have Bob Denny tonight for his second shot over at AstroWorld. And we're going to be talking about Ascom Alpaca, followed by March 1st is our next guest. And that's going to be the return of Ivo Stoyanov from APT. And we haven't seen him since he released 2.0 last March. It's going to be interesting to see what he has in the little bag of tricks for this year. So we'll see what he has going on with APT. Should be pretty cool. Followed by April 5th, we have Warren Keller, the aforementioned Masters of PixInsight and IP4AP. Warren, believe it or not, this is his first time on AstroWorld as a solo person. He's been on before, but this is going to be his first show on his own. So it's going to be a lot of fun having Warren. Maybe he'll even play some saxophone for us. Who knows? But and if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. Please hang out with us on Discord, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, the whole thing. So thank you so much for everybody for enduring my 6-minute thing here. And surprise, surprise, Bueller is alive. So we have Eric here. So and Bob is no longer Jesse. So that's good.
That's a good
thing.
And
I'm sure Jesse and Bob both appreciate that.
I am sure they do.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, so welcome again, Bob. It's great to have you again. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Proud to serve, as they say. So I appreciate the invitation. I really do.
You've
and
always.
I'm loving the swag. I'm loving the swag you're wearing. Appreciate that.
Yeah, very important. Very important. This is it. Thank you for sending that swag to me from the last time I was here.
No problem.
I got on this.
You got it anytime. But yeah, so since we have grown quite a bit. We have hit, since you came here last, we have hit the 500 subscriber mark, the 1,000 subscriber mark, and the 1,500 subscriber mark. We're at 1,620 subscribers now. With 100 and change on our Discord channel, 1100 on Twitter. I mean, we blew up since you've gotten here. So there is probably a lot of people in the chat. We have about 25 people in the chat right now. But for the ones that weren't here the last time, why don't you tell the membership what you do, what is Ascom Alpaca, and give us a little background on yourself.
Okay, that's a giant question, of course.
It's about 15 questions. So
I don't know. The audience I'm going to make an assumption are basically astronomers and not technologists. And that's what makes what our group does different. And that is we really focus on astronomy and not on technology as an end in itself. So if our aim is to please people who want to get the job done, want to get images, want to, work their observatory, and not people who want to tinker with protocols and different things like that. That's just something I want to put down at the beginning to kind of set the tone on things. I've talked to people about, a little background on myself. I got started in this in 1998 by having gone to Kitt Peak I'd sold a company. I'd moved out here. I got married. I was living here. I didn't know where I was going next. And I went to Kitt Peak that is really annoying. Okay. I'm sorry. I won't look up at that light anymore.
What, the ring light?
Look at that. Yeah. That's
you got a big iris. So, there you go.
Yeah, that's really bad. I'm sorry. Right. My camera's up here, unfortunately. And,
not a big
but
deal.
I'll just look like this. That's good enough, probably, I hope. So,
yeah, good.
Anyway, I went to Kitt Peak and I ran into, I was just wandering around. I drove up there at night. Gorgeous. I thought, this is really great. I used to live below Kitt Peak when I went to University of Arizona. I lived at Robles Junction in an old stone house, dirt cheap, living with a couple of other people. And I would look up at Kitt Peak and I thought, yeah, that's really cool up there. That would be in the early 70s. So I just decided I'd go up there, and I went into the cafeteria after walking around, and these guys were sitting over there talking, and I was by myself, and they asked me, they didn't know who I was. So they're like, do we know you? No. Well, why are you here? I go, well, because I thought it'd be cool to come up and look around. And the gates opened, and I drove up and I did it. Well, so come and join us. Come on, sit down. We'll have and I asked them what they were doing. And the main guy was a guy named Jim Scotty. Jim Scotty was the principal investigator for the Space Watch program. And they had repurposed an old telescope up at Kitt Peak to drift scan, which is the telescope would sit still and let the sky move by, and they'd clock the image off the CCD in those days at a rate which matched the motion of the sky. So you would end up with an image of round stars, but the scope didn't track. The camera actually clocked the pixels off as they went by on the camera, which is a very cool, and I'd never heard of anything like that. I thought, this is great. You want to go see it? Yep. So he took me over and showed me this old DEC VAX and an old repurposed telescope. And it lit my fuse. It totally lit my fuse. And I had a background in a lot of my career of doing software for various things involving digital equipment and Apple, Microsoft. I won't get into all that, but I went, oh, and I got back home after that. And I thought, you know what? I could do this for amateurs. I could do something like this. And so that gave birth to the original astronomer's control panel for the LX200. I bought a classic LX200. I saw what the protocol was. That protocol was very honest. The control system was very honest. It was developed by a guy named Tom Melsheimer for Meade, and it was just plain honest. It would do everything I asked it. I only had to figure out that you need to look at the distance bars in order to figure out when a slew completed. Anyway, I'm getting down in the weeds.
That's okay.
The net result is that I ended up being in astronomy software for the last 20-something years, 25 years. And one of the things I saw early on, based on my background prior to astronomy, is that it was the Wild West. Every single telescope had a different control system. Every focuser had different X, Y, 1, 2, pound sign, whatever the hell. All of that, everything. So how would somebody like me or anybody else who wanted to develop applications ever be able to make a living? Because I would have to learn how each one of these mounts work. So I'd have to have a warehouse full of mounts, right? So I could test. And if something went wrong now, I've got to bring one of these dusty mounts out of my warehouse, plug it in, and figure out what's the problem. It becomes, you add mounts, focusers, rotators, domes. You start adding things up and it becomes absolutely impossible. It's an n squared problem, right? So it becomes impossible for somebody like me or the people who did NINA or the people who did SGP or Voyager to make a living, because we would spend most of our time solving problems with people who have misbehaving devices. Impossible. So I came up with an idea, and then I pitched it to one company, and they said, "You're nuts." And then I pitched it to another company, which was Diffraction Limited, who at the time was bringing Maxim out, and they said, "Great idea. We'll put a standardized interface to cameras on our application." And then I worked with them, and we came out with the idea of Ascom, and that's what it is. So that's what I'm here to talk about, is how all that turned out after all these years. It certainly became on Windows a standard during the mid-2000s. And what we realized, that's not where everything's going to be in the future. So we've gone past that now and gotten away from talking over a Windows process-to-process service to talking over a network connection. And I'll explain more about that in a bit. But I want to point you to a website that everybody should know about, and that's this. And that's ascom-standards.org. And it doesn't look centered to, oh, I know why. I have the chat open. I'm not seeing anything. Let me close that. But okay, so actually, how about if I open this up? That's probably good. Does that help?
Yeah, no, I can read it. I believe everybody else can. I made you bigger.
Oh, all right. That's probably good enough, don't you think? Or
Yeah,
which way would you like it? It's
either
okay.
one.
So everything you ever wanted to know about Ascom is right here. And there it is, Ascom-standards. Can you see my mouse? Is that coming through? Maybe not, huh?
No, the mouse isn't coming through. No.
Okay. So at the URL is ascom-standards.org. So at the top of this list up here is, if you want to come back and learn more about it, this is the place to go. But I want to start with the big diagram you see right there in front of you to tell you a little bit about the history and what we do at the Ascom initiative. And if I'm getting boring, I'm really sorry. This is, I'm hoping this is something that people want. And if somebody stops me and wants to ask a question, please stop right now. I'm much better at answering questions than just giving a monolithic presentation anyway. So if you want to do that, just say, "Hey, Bob, I have a question, please." So this graphic shows that the idea here is we have an interfaces, that is the language that is used between a program and a device. The same nouns and the same verbs, regardless of the device. The verb is slew to blah. And that's not different between a Celestron or a plane wave or a BISC or any of these mounts. An application just calls slew to, boom, and then that's it. So we have the universal patterns to communicate. And back in 2001, it was realized, and I'm looking at this at the diagram here, with a service in Windows that allows programs and devices to talk to each other, or two programs really to talk to each other. And you probably heard of Ascom drivers. Well, the driver is one of the pieces and the program's the other piece. And they communicate through Windows. But that means that it's dependent on Windows. So we knew we had to come up with something different. As things turned out through the last 20 years, technology changed considerably. And so we end up now with the same interfaces, the same patterns, the same nouns, the same verbs, but over a network connection and using a very commonly used connection method, I'll call it, between the program and the driver and the device. So if you want to look, oh, I have to do it over here. Oh, now can you see my mouse?
Yep, now I can see it.
I was
funny.
waving it over the picture that I had on my browser. Okay, there we go. This is the place to go. And then this, what I was talking about is the standardized patterns realized on Windows, and then in 2018 we opened it up to everything. And so the key is now, well, originally it was language independent. That is, on Windows, this COM thing was available to people in Fortran, C, C++, Pascal, Python, you name it, C#, VB.NET, all of the languages commonly used, most all of them really, 20 some odd languages on Windows, you could use to develop one or the other halves of this thing. So you could develop your program in Smalltalk, and you could develop your driver in C++. It's pretty cool, but it was stuck on Windows. So in 2018, Peter Simpson, it was almost a happy accident. He came up with Windows in Ascom Remote, and when I looked at it, I go, Peter, this is a definite happy accident. You've invented the next generation of Ascom. And he's, what? And we all of a sudden everything clicked, and we can thank, okay, I have a question. There it is. What does Ascom actually stand for? Astronomy Common Object Model.
I was so
that
off.
Is, in a programming point of view, what?
I was so off. I thought it was astronomy standards for communication, but
well, astronomy common object model, meaning that the model, the language, the pattern for communicating is identical no matter what brand or flavor of a particular device. So all mounts look exactly the same to applications. You don't have to go, well, there are a few optional features that you can ask if certain optional features, but the optional features are predefined. What you don't have is a situation where you ask and see if some cool thing that nobody else thought of, that somebody came up with, and then you ask about that, and then you don't know which mounts support which things and what the names are and all that. That's not the way this works. It's a curated universal interface. That's the key. So we come up with the universal interface. It was implemented on Windows, language independent, and then implemented over the network, not only language independent, but also operating system independent, because you can write REST internet stuff on Linux, Mac, and Windows. So now it's really universal. So if you want to learn more about this, and I know some of you are probably, your eyes are kind of glazing over on this. So you can go up here to About Alpaca and Ascom and see the whole story. What's the motivation? Why did it exist? If I have an application and I have 3 different mounts, if I have to write code for each of these mounts, how much time am I going to spend doing that? I don't know, my mouse is kind of wandering around here.
It's got a mind of its
Let
own.
me move slower. There we go. Somebody else, don't move your mouse. I'm going to move mine. Okay, so I can mount, I have to write software for this mount, and for this mount. So how much time am I going to spend once you have 10 different mounts? And how much time am I going to have to spend learning the secret, weird command protocols, timing quirks, software bugs in each one of these mounts? Because now I'm responsible. You can go to the next thing. Oh no, a new mount. Now I have to write more code. And what do I have to do? Release my software again? Oh no. And or I have to go to somebody and go, hey, I have this new mount. Will you support it in your application? So the problem exists if you make a telescope, you've got to convince each app developer to support my telescope because it's different from all the others. And as an application developer, your customers are going to, why don't you support the Hammerfraz mount? So you've got this problem without a standard thing.
I love it.
Now what? Here's the most important part. If you have a problem with a device, a mount that's misbehaving, whose fault is it? How do you know? Everybody on this who's watching right now has been in the position of the finger point. Well, it must be a bug in the mount. It must be a bug in the program. And then who's responsible? And how do you know? When you have special code, native, what people call native code for each mount out there, you don't know who's the problem. Maybe it's a timing bug in the firmware, and the guy that wrote the app wrote software that tripped over that timing bug. Who knows? So you don't know. Once you get a bunch of apps, each of which have a bunch of modules controlling a bunch of mounts, you have a mess. So this is what's out there right now for cameras, because the technology is moving so quickly that anyway, I won't get into that. I will answer questions about it, but for everything else, for domes, focusers, rotators, mounts, that's not the situation anymore. What we've done is avoided this type of mess. Instead, each app talks a common language, and as far as it's concerned, it does not know what kind of telescope it's talking to. It doesn't have to. And that's the key, is that the universal interface is exactly the same, and we're very particular about that. It has to be exactly the same, and I'll explain how we enforce that down the line. So with a new telescope, the telescope maker just has to write a driver for his mount. Boom, he's automatically supported by all the apps out there. Think about that. I don't have to beg these people up here to support. Does your application support the Wiebelfetzer mount? No, that question goes away.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's it right there. I'm sorry, I got through to the next one. All right, so that's the motivation. I'm not going to bore you too much more, but there's an overview. There's more of this here, so I'm just going to tease you with these things here and show you that I must have been looking at this just a second. I need to start it at the beginning. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Was somebody going to ask me a question?
Yeah,
right.
Bob has a question. It says,
okay, go.
So Bob, you got all these manufacturers to go from their proprietary communications to this standard?
Well, anyone who says they're Ascom compatible has done that.
Right.
And their proprietary stuff goes between their driver and their unit. And they may speak over wet noodles, Ethernet, serial, USB. It doesn't matter. The applications don't care. And they don't care what gibberish the firmware in the focuser takes for it to do its thing, as long as there's a driver. And this driver really needs to be developed by the device maker. And that's the big key. And that's what we've been working on, educating people, customers mainly, because the device developers won't lift a finger unless they think they're going to be hurt by their lack of universal interface support. So we try to, that's what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to educate the user community that this is a huge benefit to them, and they need to turn around and make sure the device people they buy their stuff from know how important it is to them. And to, and the idea, and it benefits me as an app developer, but it also benefits all the other app developers. Did that answer your question? Or
yeah, he said, got it. That makes sense.
is that what you were looking for? It wasn't exactly a question, but
no, it was just like pretty much a statement. Let's see. Was there another one from Dylan? No, just really a comment.
What was that? Am I looking? Can I look at the chat? When I look at chat here, I don't see anything.
You know what I could do? I could do
I
this.
see Astro with Eric logged in twice, and then me.
There you go. So the last comment is right here. Here you go.
Where would I look for the comments?
If you go on to the YouTube channel, you'll see it on the right side.
Ah, okay. Let me see how to do that here. And I know I have to turn everything off, or we'll get a.
Or you can slide the tab for the YouTube channel on your other monitor if you have a second monitor.
I have a second monitor. I'm going there right now. As you can see, YouTube, I will get that off of here in just a sec. YouTube, and I need to search for AstroWorld TV, right?
Yep. And if I see you not subscribed, I'm turning off the channel right now. Hit that subscribe button.
And, I get so much. All right, just so you know,
I'm just playing. I'm sure you're involved with plenty.
My subscriptions list is enormous. Look at this. I don't even think I should even show this. I mean, well, okay. So anyway,
that's all right. It's fine.
How do I get back to this? Here we go. All right. So now I just have to start this up. Make damn sure it's muted. Mute. Yes.
There you go.
And then I just look at the top chat.
Yep.
Pop it out. There's a way to pop this out, I know. Pop out chat. There it is.
There you go.
And I can move that to the side. And then click this shut. And that's going to give me what I want to show people. And I have the chat right here. Dylan goes, ha, 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 ha. All right. Good. I'm glad Dylan liked my answer. Now I see what's going on out there. Thank you. I didn't realize this. All right. So the way this works, and I'm not going to belabor this because I know probably some people are just sick of this already, and I want to get more Q&A on this. But the idea here is a Windows this is the original, for the first 10 years. Windows astronomy application like SharpCap or Nina or CCD Autopilot. And they talk to a driver for the mount or the whatever. And the app talks through classic Ascom, and then the driver takes care of the private protocol here, which could be over Ethernet, Wi-Fi, USB, it doesn't matter. And the gobbledygook the device speaks is taken care of by the driver, and the driver presents a universal set of commands to the app. Next, when we go to Alpaca, we have another situation where the application on Linux or Mac OS can speak Alpaca, and then on Windows, there's a thing that Peter Simpson wrote that translates Alpaca to the Windows COM. So if this platform driver already exists, let's just call it the plane wave driver, PWI. It already exists. Well, if you're on, and I should have put iOS on here too, because Sky Safari also speaks Alpaca. And right now, Sky Safari can control a plane wave mount through Ascom Remote, because Sky Safari speaks Alpaca. Ascom Remote translates Alpaca to the original Windows COM. And so you have that, and that exists today. Or you can have a Linux, Mac, or Windows app speaking Alpaca to a self-contained device. That would be Optex rotators. And Daniel Van Noord, one of the members of our core group, is also the engineer for Optec for their devices. And so their devices speak Alpaca. And the flip side of this is if you have an app on Windows, such as SGP, Nina, Voyager, you name it, and it pops up a chooser, right? You've seen, probably some of you have seen that, to choose whatever kind of mount you have, which means that it has an Ascom driver. That chooser now allows you to create an Alpaca driver. So it looks like COM to Windows. So that means Voyager, Nina, all those programs don't change. They don't have to add anything new to speak to an Alpaca device. So now an Optec rotator, which speaks Alpaca, can be used by the Sky.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things that people don't understand about it. And the reason that all this is possible is because it's a universal protocol that's exactly the same, whether it's the old Windows COM or the newer Alpaca. So this is where we are now with Alpaca, is any OS can talk to any driver, can talk to any hardware, and it's all independent. So that's that. And then I'm only going to do, to just give you an idea here of what else is in there. These are engineering things if you're more interested in the blood and guts, and then how the principles on which it all works. And I'm not going to drag you through all this. Let's see, this, I'm hoping this will improve. It looks like it's pixelated right now. Is that me? I am really fast.
Let me see. I think I'm good on YouTube.
I have
let me take a look at the
fiber
live
here. So
it's a little bit fuzzy on YouTube, but it could be me. It's not you. YouTube is probably squashing it a little bit.
All right. I'm not going to worry about it.
No.
So that's it. I don't want to belabor this anymore. We can put my face back on here now, and I'm now good for a bunch of questions, or whatever people want to know. There's plenty there. I don't know who I'm talking to, so let's see. Now I know how to get rid of this. Let's see. Toggle screen share. Click. All right.
Here we go.
There you go.
I'm guessing that most of the people that I'm talking to are astronomers and not technologists.
They're mostly
that they just want their stuff to work.
Yeah. So,
all right. One thing I want to talk about, which has been a big push, and is a thing that, you know, that we have some technologists who get involved with us on our developers channel or forum, and they beat us over the head for not taking all their suggestions. I want you to add a new function to do this, that, and the other, because my wonderful mount does this double reverse under Bucky PEC, better pointing, blah, blah, blah. And we have to put up with all kinds of suggestions. You know, you don't listen to us. You guys are a big brotherhood. You don't, you know, you're a closed society and all that stuff. Well, guess what? How do you make something universal? The point is that what we give people in that interface is the stuff you use every night from dawn to dusk. What do you need out of a telescope? Point here, track. Yeah, there's more. Park, track a satellite, or I mean a comet. That's been a big one. But fundamentally, go to this RA and this deck and then track. And if I take a 5-hour photo and the stars are absolutely round, well, then you've got a perfect mount. That's really cool, right?
Right.
And how you get there and how close you get to perfection is your business, not ours. We're not going to expose servo motors, currents of encoder ticks, PEC curves, all the stuff that's blood and guts inside of a mount that the mount designers do to make their mount better. What's better? It points better and it tracks better. So that's you. That's how you tell. That's how people know you have a better mount than the next person. It isn't because you have a double Bucky underscore PEC triple count. Who cares? And that's our philosophy in a nutshell right there. It's what's under the hood is for you to know. All we are there for is to give the astronomers the steering wheel, the windshield, the brake, and for me, the clutch and the stick and the gas. And that's it.
So you
Headlight control, yeah. All right. You can get into a rent car and you already know how to drive it, and that's where we want to be. That universal driver interface. Okay,
nice.
question.
Actually, Kyle Greenway said, "What are your thoughts on Indy?"
That's I will. If I should have had that picture. I am not going to get involved in a standards war. Period.
Yep.
I don't. It's a total clickbait topic, and what our deal is, we give people what we think is going to make things better for astronomers, and that's it. I'm not going to get into the culture of Linux or the relative merits of. I know Elwood. Oh, I knew Elwood Downey in the old days, and I followed it, and it's a different philosophy, and that's all I'm going to say. I just am not going to get into a standards where I have a cover of a book called AC versus DC, and it was about Westinghouse versus Edison, and it's the first big standards war. Well, just so you know, Edison was Westinghouse and Tesla were absolutely right, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have electricity right now, electrical energy. So, but in the old days, that was a big standards war, and I'm not going to say anything one way or the other than we try really hard to respond to people's needs, to know what they need, to do what we need to do to make life easier. And if we end up, I already know we serve a huge community, so that's good enough for me.
You had another question about. I just put it up there. Can you see the questions when they slide across?
Yes, I see. Does Ascom plan on branching out to your own acquisition or other software? Absolutely not. And the reason I say that is because we serve those people.
Yep.
Those people are our customers, the people who make the devices and the people who make the software. And for us to try to outdo all of these people whose focus is on their software because we gave them the ability not to have to focus on the devices, that would be crazy. I mean, talk about, put a gun to your head and pull a trigger, bang. It would be really dumb. So no, absolutely not.
There you go. Next one. Is it possible with Alpaca or Ascom remote to establish connection from outside the home Wi-Fi network?
That's a really good question because it opens up the opportunity for me to talk about scope. This is probably it's right now for us the hottest topic. And here's the deal. If we look at astronomers out there, we look at the use cases. What are those use cases? You don't have 3 people, each with hand boxes, pushing a button, trying to fight over control of the scope, or 2 people taking pictures at the same time, right? There's no use case for an architecture that that prevents people from stepping on each other. That's done by the people who build the observatory and run it. So we've had a lot of people criticize us on Alpaca for not having encryption and access control and multi-user protection and brokers and all sorts of other stuff, right? Well, they're technologists. There's no use case for that stuff. Yes, you can run Alpaca over the public internet. You can do it, but you're an idiot if you do it. And we're not going to build, let me put it this way. Can you imagine going to a university and selling them an Alpaca focuser and then trying to convince their IT department that this focuser is hardened against Chinese, attacks from China on this computer and this focuser? Hell no. Or having to log in with a certificate and SSL and all that stuff to talk to a focuser, that's ridiculous. So and then if you write the driver for a focuser, now you're telling these people, and we get a lot of beginners trying to write a driver for a new device, telling them, oh, well, by the way, you have to implement SSL and password authentication or zero trust networking or all this stuff. It's ridiculous. The application environment is closed system. You can do that if you want with a VLAN or a virtual VPN, right?
Right.
You can do that. That's your world. You can extend your world with a VPN, or you can, like they do, for example, at Sierra Remote. They learned their lesson real fast on that. After they got hacked and everybody's stuff got destroyed, they put in virtual VLANs for each one of their customers, so no one can scorch anybody else's stuff. And that's exactly how it needs to be. That's just basic thing, So if you have an observatory and you have all your equipment in there, to think that each individual piece of equipment would have to be hardened against operating in the public internet is ridiculous. Instead, the application space for Alpaca is, excuse me, what was that?
No, I was just saying, instead of being, all open to the public internet, that's like you were saying with Sierra, that person, if they really want to do something like that, build a VPN between, that remote site and their home site. It's very simple. Just 2 routers, build a VPN, and you have your own private network and you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's exactly right. So you want in conceptually to keep yourself in a closed, safe environment.
Exactly.
And that's what so the protocols have been designed for use and operation, which keeps them very simple. And that means that someone who wants a driver for Alpaca doesn't have to implement an entire Apache web server just to run their focuser and put all the hardening and all that stuff in there. So, we take a lot of heat, but that's part of the job. We just say, yeah, okay, fine, forget it. And most people understand that. And we just try to keep educating people like I'm doing right now, which is great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Makes sense.
That was Nikul Suthar. That was an excellent question. Thank you. That really was one I was hoping I'd get. Let me look up here through the other questions
There
here.
was one by John Adastra, if I'm pronouncing
That's
it
a
right.
good question also. In fact, that's a really good question. Ideally, when you bring a device, let's say a mount, that's a good example. When you bring a new mount into the market, who do you think should write the driver? I'll just ask that question back. What makes the most sense of who writes the driver?
The creator of the mount.
The creator.
Exactly.
Yeah, the builder. The
Or
engineer.
at least the creator of the hand controller.
Well, the mount is a box, and if it has a hand controller, that's part of the mount.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah,
So
but the manufacturer and their team should be doing this stuff.
exactly, because who knows what's going on inside that thing?
Right.
Who knows how to make it behave the way they want? And more than that, though, who wants to make sure their customer experience is good?
Yeah.
So if you put a mount, if you build a mount and you say, okay, in order for you to use this mount, you have to go # X1 655 over Ethernet and you know, well, I don't have to. Now I got to start writing code for your mount. How do you know that each one of the app developers is going to do right by your mount? And you may have timing problems in there that only you know about, that you can mitigate in the driver and hide from your customers, which is exactly what happens in a lot of cases. You know, oh, I know I have to wait after a slew for the XY Zimmerphrasor to get locked in and all of that. So I'm not going to tell them I'm finished slewing until all that's over with. Well, it's really easy in Ascom, because you say slew, and then you look at it and it says slewing. Okay, yeah, slewing is true. Slewing is true. And then you keep looking at slewing is true until slewing goes false. Okay, it's finished. And that's all I need to know as an app developer. It's slewed. And there's some more subtleties to this, which if we have the time and if people are interested, I can go into. But you got to also know for sure that it really did slew. Error handling is also, and that's quality control and integrity, and that's another one of our focuses, which you don't see a lot of in astronomy when they first come in. They don't get the idea of of integrity. I have to know when I tell you to slew, if you come back to me and say okay, then I have to know that you think you can do that slew, that I'm not asking you to slew to the floor or into the tripod or break yourself or hit the wall or whatever. If you come back to me and say, and this is again a universal interface, slew, okay, then as an app developer, I have to know, okay, they accepted my request and it's going to start. It's going to go try to do it. It might not actually complete though. It might jam up. There might be a cable snag. There might be a gear jam. We don't know what. Then what? How do I know that the slew actually completed? Well, I'm looking at this slewing variable, right? And it says false, 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 true. If I see that slewing, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Slewing, true, true. I'm still slewing. I'm still slewing. I'm still slewing. False. I'm not slewing anymore. Then I have to know, okay, I have to trust you to tell me the truth. You're not slewing anymore. That means you've done what I asked you to do. You're finished. That's the integrity part. So now what happens if you run into a problem? Slewing? Yes. Slewing? Yes. Slewing? Bang, I get an error back, an exception. Halt. This thing is in trouble. I got an exception. And it says, slew failed, probable cable snag. Now I know it didn't finish, and I've intercepted that slew. The exception, and I know that it didn't work, and now it's I get to do whatever I want to do when the thing crapped out on me, which is put up a box that says, whoop, your mount crapped out on us. Go look at it or whatever, but it's not for me to try to fix. I don't fix that stuff because I don't know a damn thing about it. So that's the integrity part. So all of the things I'm talking about are things that people don't think about, and they just take for granted when things work. But that ain't the way it was 20 years ago, for sure. And it really wasn't that way 10 years ago. And we really worked hard behind the scenes to promote integrity and reliability. And that's why we don't just change the interface when somebody tells us, oh, you need to add, some other CPU temperature or, whatever to the interface. Come on, man, that's for industrial controls stuff or whatever. Who cares? I mean, if you want to monitor if you have a special thing like your battery or solar cells or whatever, that's a separate issue. That's not astronomy. That's your physical plan or the temperature or whatever. Right. I know I'm probably just going off the rails here, but I'm hoping you're getting the idea.
You did not just say that, did you?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Is that some kind of a badge of courage or what?
That's a moment in the show where we actually use that statement on the show quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
To shut people like me up, right?
No,
Stop that.
It's basically what you're saying. You know, it's just like sometimes when you weren't off topic, you were on topic. But you know, like sometimes when you think you're off topic, but you're not, you know, you're off the rails. So there you go.
Okay, well, I probably got off the rails. So I'm sorry, but as you can tell, I'm semi-passionate about it. And
no, you know what? And it's great, Bob. I love seeing that the passion you have for the product that you have is really, you know, it's exciting to me. And you know, to see that kind of passion in a product, it's really cool. Especially it's your brainchild, so you got to kind of, you know.
Well, it's not just mine. A lot of people.
Oh yeah,
contributed along the way, and so I'm very sorry if I got overly emotional on that.
No, not at all. Bob, everyone's saying you were perfect, and you know, not a problem. So
yeah. So Bob, let me ask you this. I may have asked you this the last time you were on. Do you do any astronomy or imaging yourself personally? I know you program a lot. You're dealing a lot with the code, with Alpaca. But do you yourself, you know, spend a little bit of time under the night sky? And if
I
so,
do,
what do you enjoy?
But it's not a focus for me. I have as our products. That is not Ascom, but my own company, DC3 Dreams, does a image automation and scheduling system and also has a multi-user web-based service. So you can serve communities with an observatory without having to let anyone into the observatory at all, because that is, you know, we know how that goes when you have students logging in and then they start turning all the dials on all the software, and then the next student gets on there and, hey, this thing used to work yesterday, but you know, this person got on there and then they got the guider. I need to adjust the guider because it's oscillating, or you know, whatever. So one of the places. Get this on here and I'll show you something. This observatory, I'm going to switch away from Ascom now. You said it's okay for me to talk about our software,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So toggle screen sharing. Hopefully this will go. There it is. Okay. I now know I need to move my mouse over here. This is the Great Basin Observatory. It's the first fixed observatory in a national park. They say first research grade, but it's also the first permanent one. A lot of people bring their tripods out and give night sky things. But so the GBO was built in 2018, and it was funded by these universities: the National Park Service, Southern Utah University, Concordia. This is the University of Nevada at Reno. This is Western Nevada College. And then WestNet is a microwave internet service. So this is a plane wave scope. It's in an admin area of the park. No public allowed. And it is totally remote and serves at any point in time. There are at least a dozen or two students and researchers that use this facility. And it is runs every night that it's been there since 2018. It runs every night, and that it can, obviously, weather permitting. And so it is a totally remote observatory. Well, I'm not going to try to get, I don't know what the dome, that's probably a pretty good. Anyway, you can go to greatbasinobservatory.org and see the tour. Here's the day. I have another picture like this with myself and Paul Gardner, the engineer, and Jason Simison, who's the contractor. This observatory went from dirt to first light in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's what first-class engineering and first-class construction can get you. And it is a real, it's quite an amazing thing. I couldn't believe it when they told me. I saw this dome being built at Astrohaven over at Lake Havasu when I visited them. This was about I don't know, 6 months or more before they put this thing out there. But that's a special Astrohaven that the Park Service ordered that had not a bright white color to it. And it's just amazing. So yeah, we were out there in 2016 for this first light, and it runs now. That's 6 years. They go out every quarter and do PM on it, and it just sits out there and runs. And so what we have another customer, and I'll show you a little bit more about it by going to the Boyce Research Initiatives. That's Grady and Pat Boyce. You may or may not know who they are, but they also provide outreach. I've got to remember to. So this is their telescope right now. It looks like it's cloudy. This is at Sierra Remote Observatory. But what the students get to see is this particular observatory, as is Great Basin, is run on a scheduled system. It's not, let's see what they've got here. Oh, come on. What they've got. No, they don't have, they're still, it looks like they deleted a whole bunch of stuff. But this worked, whatever they were trying to do. This must have been a test. This observatory is just coming online right now. They just, first light was maybe only a couple of weeks ago. And so this is, but what the students get to use is a form like this. So schedule. So if they want to take a time series of something, then they would put in project name and then a target name. Just called AstroWorld X. And we want to put an RA in a deck. Let's just try for an M object. Let's just say M. We can search M. And right now, what's visible, we can look here. Just pick M110, okay? That puts it in here. There's the RA in deck. We can put 5 images of 180 seconds, and I'm not going to belabor this, but here's the key. This thing goes on constraints, not time. So you can tell it, please image this when it's above 35 degrees, or within these number of hour angle, or within this certain air mass, or we can tell it to avoid the moon, or only image with the moon down. And then you don't give it a time.
It just
when you have a full system, it will just hammer away at the telescope and work it. We gave it the entire the Messier Marathon, and it got it in one night.
Huh.
By itself, with no ordering. Just put the coordinates. We allowed it to start very low on the horizon and let it rip, and it covered the whole sky and got them all with 120-second images.
Wow.
There wasn't much time between images, except towards the end of the night, it got caught up.
Yeah, because you got that space at the end where you're waiting for stuff to come up. You know.
Yes, that's right. But the scheduler got that. And so I may be able to show that. I hadn't planned on doing this, so I'm doing this ad hoc. There should be something about the Merides Messier Marathon. Here are the details. Okay.
Yeah, because
This
that's,
one
that's
was
coming up next month. So
yeah. So here's what it looked like for coverage over the sky, the deck, and the RA, and then probably the most interesting one of these is one escape. Oh, back up. That's what the time. So it just kept completely busy the whole night.
yeah,
And then here's when it started to run out of stuff towards the end.
Yep.
And then got that last. But and then here's what it was doing in terms of the meridian. And you can see the scheduler tries to work around the meridian. Now here it's reaching out to the east, catching targets before they cross the meridian. But you can see what it's doing, and it made all these decisions by itself without any timing input from the customers or from the observer. So
a lot of people
that kind of gives you an idea
about the software. I think that's ACP that you're using.
Yeah, that's ACP Expert, it's called.
Okay, so because a lot of people are asking what software you're using to do all this scheduling. So maybe you want to talk a little bit
That's
about
our
ACP?
software. That's that's my end of it. Yep. And that's my activities on that are totally separate from Ascom. All of the Ascom work by myself, Peter Simpson, Rick Burke, and Daniel Van Noord, all of that is volunteer entirely. I don't charge any money, and neither does anybody else. So that's just for the benefit of everybody.
Well, we appreciate it. Trust me.
That's truly appreciated.
Bob, also talk about Pinpoint too, if you don't mind. You do got some great software that you should, definitely talk about the software.
There are a lot of plate solvers out there right now. And that they all came up in the last, I'll say, 5 years. But back in 2001, when I started all this, I knew I would need to be able to measure the pointing of the telescope because I was doing it with an LX200 and it would only get in the general vicinity of a target. But what it would do is once you were close, you could measure how far off you were and then creep the telescope and it would center the target. So that was one of the things in 2001 that I was really a pioneer on, was automatic centering of targets. Other people came along and then now everything pretty much does it. I mean, you pretty much have to. But my wife Stephanie will tell you, she remembers the days of me plotting star fields and putting them on her art studio light table and trying to line them up and see the patterns and figure out how the hell am I going to do this in software. First, I had to detect the stars, including ones you can't even see in the image. And that's tough, but you want to get as many stars as you can, and then figure out how to match those up against a reference catalog when you don't know the plate scale very well, and you don't know the rotation angle at all, and you don't really even know where you're looking in the sky. Well, I got it to where if you're within a half or 3/4 of a field of view, it would solve. Now they have all sky solvers, and I have to hand it to astrometry.net for pioneering that technology, for being able to solve a picture of a sunset somewhere and tell you what the Aryan deck of the center of the image is. That's just amazing. So, but the other thing is I worked with a guy named Kwang Yu Young, Bill Young, because he was hunting asteroids. He was the first amateur to be designated as a survey by the Minor Planet Center. And he had 4 telescopes, 4 telescopes, south in Arizona, that would run all our software automated. Take image after image, 3 or 4 images, same the sky, and all across like that. And then he'd run pinpoint against all those images and look for anything that moved, and then give a science quality RA and deck of those things that moved. And that's what pinpoint does that's different from some of the other plate solvers. Those plate solvers will tell you what the center of the image is. But what pinpoint does is it solves and gives you back an RA and a deck of every detected object in the field to within 1/10 of a pixel.
Huh.
And that's good enough for real science. So much more difficult because you have optical just in every telescope, not a tangent plane projector. So you have pin cushion distortion, you have trapezoidal distortion, all types of optical sin X over X distortion in the image. So it has to solve distortion calculation by comparing the XY coordinate in the image with the predicted XY coordinate coming out of the catalog, finding those differences, putting them into an algorithm called singular value decomposition, and coming back with a polynomial that will correct all the objects in the image and give you a science quality centroid and RA and deck of every one. So that's what pinpoint does, and that's what makes it different. The guy that did the Eddington experiment, and this was in 2018, his name was Donald Bruns. Do you know about him? Do you know what the Eddington experiment is? Okay, the Eddington experiment is taking images around the solar eclipse and looking for the motions of the distortions of the positions of the stars around the coming through the gravitational grazing. The light is grazing the edge of the sun, and that heavy gravitational field will bend the light, right? So back in, I don't remember when the original Eddington experiment was, but it was in the 20s or 30s or something. They kept trying to validate Einstein's prediction for the bending of light and gravity. Well, that experiment was duplicated in 2018 by Donald Bruns, and he used two astrometry tools to do that. And he said they're identical, essentially, in their accuracy. One was called Astrometrica, and the other is Pinpoint. And none of the other ones would be, he couldn't use any of the other ones. And this is tiny measurements of very faint targets right at the edge of the sun's disk. I can maybe find you some info on that. Oh, Richard Berry, here it is, Physics Today, that's the one. So, this is really slow. Okay, there we go. This is pretty interesting, actually. So I will share this briefly, and I think this might work. There you go. So there's the sun and the. If you just search for Donald Bruns Eddington, Bruns Eddington, you'll go right to this Physics Today article. And he worked with me and the guy who wrote Astrometrica. He said, you know what? They work. And that's it right there.
Wow.
So Pinpoint's, there he is. That's probably a pretty good picture. He's a neat guy. When he first called me, I couldn't believe he was serious. But he was, and he did it.
That's wild.
Okay. Guide me a little. Am I
Time's fine. Let's see. Rob Morgan said he's got to go. They're talking about Zion, going to Zion in the chat.
Well, Josh got a question about Pinpoint.
I don't know that answer. I don't know what Bortle.
No.
Sky.
Josh was asking, like Pete said, Josh, is Pinpoint available for general use?
Yes. Yep.
I believe there's
that's
a trial
a good,
for it, right?
that's it. There is a trial, and that's exactly right. That's pinpoint.tc3.com. That's it.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
put it
see
up in the
Rob was
chat.
on there.
Yep. he was
I've been
saying
talking to him offline. So,
that.
do you have to have
Yeah.
Maxim DL to use ACP Basic? That's a question. The answer is yes. The reasons, I think I gave you a little bit of history at the beginning of this, where I went to 2 places to help me with camera control because I knew I wasn't going to be able to tackle that. And I went to one, which I won't mention, that told me you're dreaming. And the other one was Diffraction that said, yeah, that sounds great. And a month later, they came out with an update to their software that had a programmable, scriptable API on it. And I plugged into that. And that's what I've been using for 20 years. And the good thing about Diffraction is they're just excellent to deal with. They're good people. They're honest. They really love their customers and they work very hard. And when they bought SBIG, it was a really tough time for them because that camera line had been neglected.
Yep.
And they took on support for stuff that is so old. That's to their credit. They could have said, nope, we're not supporting any of the stuff that was made 90 years ago. But they didn't. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I know. And I actually, I owned a couple of SBIG cameras. I had the 8300M for a while, and when I bought it, Pete actually, I think you and I were talking about it like many years ago. It's like, I bought the SBIG camera, and I was telling Pete, I was like, Pete, I bought an SBIG camera, but it's like the cheapest one they have. But I bought an SBIG camera, it's like $2,500, whatever it was. He's like, yeah, but Dan, you know what? That's like saying that you bought a Porsche, but you bought the cheapest Porsche on the lot, and I had a lot of good years out of that SBIG camera. I have moved on since then to the world of CMOS. I went to the dark side. I joined the Empire. And,
no, that's good stuff. That's really, really good.
Now they make. I was the last holdout of the group. Well, actually, Pete is now the last holdout of the group. But moving totally CMOS now as opposed to CCD. And
you should, because that's one of the things we did in Ascom, just so you know, we saw that coming. Again, we're very reluctant to make willy-nilly changes to the interface because it means everyone has to change.
Mm-hmm.
If you put something new, now all kinds of people have to do that in their driver. So that makes it difficult for us to sell it as a stable, well-proven interface. And we did and I'll get back to this in a minute, we did a survey in 2019 of both app developers and device people, and their satisfaction levels were at 80 and 90%. So we know we're doing our job right. Nice. Anyway, one of the things that came up at a AA VSO, are you guys familiar with that?
Variable star service. Sure.
Yeah. So at AA VSO, they got a FLI CMOS camera, very expensive, high quality FLI CMOS camera. And they were struggling because they had to take a lot of short images.
Okay.
And then stack them because of the characteristics of CMOS. It's gotten, the dynamic ranges have improved now. Things are a little bit less finicky in that regard. But I could see the writing on the wall that the way this is going to go is, instead of having to download 1,000 frames of huge CMOS things and then stacking them on your computer and having to pipe all that stuff across a USB or whatever, and then stacking it there, then there's just no reason you couldn't stack it right inside the camera with like NVIDIA processing and whatever the hell else you can put, because these things are, well, they're pretty cheap, but still you can put electronics in the camera to do that stacking in the camera. But now you have to tell the camera, I want a 10-minute image, but I want you to make up that 10 minutes with 20 30-second exposures.
Right.
And so now instead of having to download 20 gigantic images, you download one and you get the same thing, except you get a huge dynamic range, which is what CMOS does, and it's much more sensitive. So we put a simple change to the camera interface. We put a sub-exposure interval in as one of the things that you can set. So when you talk to a camera through Ascom now, you can say, I want an exposure this long, but I want you to do that with subs that are this long, and then give me the stacked result. So all that takes place right inside the camera. And that's also looking into the future when the cameras may be self-contained and have their own Ascom drivers inside there and be a Wi-Fi device. And that's totally the end game for Alpaca, is self-contained device, no wires.
Wow. That's gonna be nuts.
That's in there now, and we did respond to that. And so that's anyway.
That's gonna be cool, man. When that happens, and we don't have to worry about cable snags or things, things like that happening. There's so many times when I sit there, like everybody knows, and I make my own brain farts, and I throw them out there, and and I have no problem doing that, because you know what? No matter what, everybody out there has done the same thing at one point or another, and you'll be sitting there and you'll be like, my guiding's all screwed up. I don't know what's going on. It's dark. I went out 15 times. I checked this cable. I checked that. And it turns out it's like the temperature sensor on your Focus was wrapped around your deck clutch or something. And it just screws up everything. And, it's a black wire on a black clutch. And, you just didn't see it. And you spent 3 hours looking for a simple problem like that. If Alpaca could sit there and say, hey, everything's wireless, it's stable. And one of the things that I get worried about, and maybe I'm just really old school, is that I'm always wired instead of wireless. That's just the way I am. And that's just,
Well, and that's fine. You can do it with Ethernet, and you still have to get power to these devices.
Right. That's
so
true.
You do have that problem.
But you still cut 70% of the issues out, because a lot of things are powered with USB now. Sooner or later you'll have PoE everything, and or whatever, and all this new technology is coming out to lower and lower the wires. I mean, even Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, he runs an Ethernet cable out to his ASI Air just to be wired. And it's one of those things. It's a comfort zone for me that I think, and it may be misplaced, but
no,
it's just,
there's a lot of places that don't, they don't want Wi-Fi in there. They don't want RF.
Yeah.
And so,
yep.
And that's fine. That's the nice thing about Alpaca, is it works on Wi-Fi or Ethernet.
Yeah. Me, as far as my own personal thing, I don't want, having everything hardwired. Basically, it minimizes my security risk, instead of trying to have people hopping in via a wireless connection or anything like that and trying to screw around. Having things hardwired, it's more reliable for me. But
I would love to see somebody hack into an ASI Air and just like mess around with your telescope.
Yeah, I know, right? But
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna drive to your house and do that.
Yeah, good luck. Let's go for it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But the thought of to Bob's point of getting to having a self-contained unit with Alpaca managing everything, the self-contained camera, this entire setup, and to minimize, you can still have the joy of astronomy and astrophotography, but with the minimization of wires and cable snag risk and things like that. It's pretty, it's just pretty exciting how things have been innovating, the past, even just the past 5 years, past 10 years, how things have been changing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And and I can say to Bob and to your team, we really truly appreciate what you guys have done, just on a volunteer level, just to say, hey, I see a need, and you know what, I'm not looking for any money, but let's get a group of my people, like-minded people, and doing this, and bringing this, these capabilities, to everyone, not just Windows users now, but to everyone. Doesn't matter what operating system you're running, it's because it's basically all over, basically over that web protocol. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
so we really appreciate it.
Well, we should have, I didn't see that Rob was here, but Rob was on our core team for several years, and he did quite a bit. And, some of the people who've worked at the core level in Ascom have come and gone. Tim Long, Rob Morgan, Rick Burke. We haven't heard from him. I'm hoping he's okay. He's a good guy. I talking to him, and he would jump in on the forums and help people focus on how to get their problem. So anyway, there we go.
Yeah, but we really appreciate it. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank
you and your team. So.
I got to be honest with you. I will have like a conniption if there was a world without Ascom, because I would really, it'd be really difficult without some sort of standard involved. When
Absolutely.
can you just imagine that there is no, I guess, central hub for communication for all the devices that we use as astrophotographers, from focusers to filter wheels to flat panels to mounts to telescopes to cameras to, I keep on going with all the little things that we got. Now we got like motorized off-axis guiders and all this other stuff going on. I mean, all people are coming up with new peripherals all the time, things that you would never even think of, and most, if not all, are Ascom compliant. And if we didn't have that basis, that level playing field of that,
that's the best way to put it.
God, it would be a disaster.
It's not a hub; it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
That's it.
A new person gets to come in and compete on a par at that level, and their job is to provide a better product that does whatever they're selling it to do.
Exactly.
But I want to point out the other thing about Alpaca self-contained is you don't have a separate driver. And that is, for some people, a barrier. Well, I can't find a driver for my 25-year-old LX200. Why not?
Wow.
So, and that's because some guy in Boulder Creek in a log cabin wrote the driver, and Meade could care less about it.
Well, yeah. Well, now
they
you got to go to Orion. So, yeah.
Well, I know they're much better. They're for real.
Yeah, they've turned it around quite a bit. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
and they do a good job. So anyway, that's I'm the driver. Whoever asked the question, who should write the driver?
Right.
It probably one of our main behind the scenes missions over the years has been to develop the user awareness that the driver should come with the device, that it's all one thing, that in fact the device you can consider like a car that you get into and drive with the level playing field, the steering wheel and the entertainment system, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To actually drive that's the level playing field, and that's what Ascom provides between the driver and the vehicle. Open the hood, there's all kinds of stuff in there, and maybe some of them are faster, slower, better, cheaper, sound better, whatever.
So let me ask a really base question here, and this is really kind of for the people that may or may be on the fence of switching to Alpaca or just staying with the regular Ascom. So if I'm an on the fence user and I'm a decent intermediate user, what would be the thing to push me over the line to jump and make the switch or start using Alpaca instead of 6.6 or whatever's out now?
Well, that platform is nothing, I should point out, is nothing more than a set of specifications, tools, and libraries. The platform is not a program. There's nothing about it that's a program. So you're, as a consumer, you have an application. You primarily you have something that you use to do astronomy. Presumably you do it with a computer. I mean, we're not talking about people with eyepieces, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
So you've got a computer, therefore you have a program. And I'm going to say, for lack of a better one, I'll just say Nina, because it's free. So that's a good one to use, because I'm not going to,
Gotcha.
And that's what you use. So if you, as a Nina user, see a new device come online, a new mount, and the mount is not Ascom compatible, well, you're going to tell Peter or the people at Woodland Hills, you know what? I can't buy this mount because Nina lives on this level playing field, and this mount doesn't, so I can't use it. So that's going to cause the mount maker to want to support Ascom. Right. Now, why would they not just keep going with the old Windows Ascom, or the classic, I'll say, Windows Ascom? Because maybe somebody is going to come up with some software that runs on Linux or the Mac.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Then what? So as the mount maker, if you build your mount to speak Alpaca, and this is really important, if you build your mount, that thing behind Peter right there, if that had an Ethernet connector that spoke Alpaca, every single Windows program out there that talks Ascom could run that.
Gotcha.
No new software, because there's a translator. When you bring up the chooser, you get to pick Alpaca devices in there also. And the chooser is where you pick whether you're talking to an Ioptron or a PlaneWave or whatever. Well, you pick the XYZ that has an Alpaca driver, or has an Ethernet connector and speaks Alpaca, or is on Wi-Fi and speaks Alpaca. It shows up right in the chooser. And Nina and SGP, CCD Autopilot, which is even out of production right now, right?
Yeah.
The guy is retired, but a lot of people still use it. It still has a chooser. They could talk to that mount that speaks Alpaca instantly. There's no new development needed by the app developer, and that's what Ascom is all about. That everything downstream of you is the same no matter what. So we managed to make a huge change in protocol at the device level look completely transparent to the application, that it doesn't have to change at all. So as a consumer, when you're talking to a mount maker or a store person, and I guess, Peter, you talk to people as a representative of Woodland Hills. So you, Peter, you are the person, because you also talk to the mount makers and the camera makers and all the other people. You're the person who they look to see what it is they need to do to remain competitive and have a good customer experience, right? Because they're not going to, the customers are looking to you to find out what you think they need to have a good experience. So you and the other people that work for dealers and also the communities out there that talk to each other, that's where that demand has to come from. And so, as to answer you, it's not the consumer. He just wants to be able to observe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if the mount maker has Alpaca in there, excuse me, now that mount can be used by software running on. Somebody can come up and say, "Oh, I'm going to build a new astronomy application on the Mac or on, Linux." That probably isn't going to happen on Linux anytime soon, because they're just too. That's very much indie and Indigo. Also, a lot of people, see that more as a different experience. It's more for people who want to tinker and play around and have, experiment and so forth. So,
but at
I'm
least
going to
this
cough
way,
again.
you have. But at least, Bob, at least this way, if you help me, if I'm following this correctly, that develop, you now manufacturers or software developers or what have you, they can write this software, and it can be basically almost OS agnostic in a way, where it does you don't
if you
necessarily
do it in Python,
have
it would be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, a person can run this on Mac OS, or they can run it on Windows OS, because those are your two most prevalent ones that somebody's going to use. Either you're going to be a Mac user or you're going to be a PC user. So at least this way, with having Alpaca and having this standard with, and how Alpaca communicates over, through Ethernet and over basically the web, web protocol, I would say, or it's network protocol rather. It makes it a lot easier for these programmers and these developers of software and what have you. They can say, hey, I can make my software, for Mac users. I can make software for Windows users. And guess what? Everybody is on this, like you say, is on the same playing field now. You can have people, going to a star party and bring my Mac or bring my laptop or bring my IBM PC. Doesn't matter. We're still going to be talking and doing the same thing.
The key is in it's a chicken and egg problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yep.
So
the demand,
something like that.
Yeah. So if the device makers, the people who make the telescopes and the rotators and the focusers and all of that, today they could drop writing. They could just decide not to write a Windows COM driver. You don't have to do it anymore. It's
right.
And it's arcane. It's old technology. It requires C++, or if you really want to live in a horrible world, you can write that stuff in C++. But .NET, C#.NET makes it much easier. Really easy, much easier, I'll say. But it's still arcane compared to Python, which right now, Python is the #1 most popular language in astronomy, right?
Yes,
so right
sir.
now,
Yes,
we have kits. There's a Alpaca, which is a, pip install Alpaca, and you now have access to any Alpaca device and through Ascom Remote, any Windows device. So you can write your own little specialized app in Python and talk right to a planewave telescope today by just calling the typical simple functions that are there. And let me just get to this real quick here. Mm-hmm. Let's try this and see what I get. This is the documentation for programmers, and it shows you how to. It's just like any other. Maybe if you're a Python programmer, this will be very familiar to you. The format of these. Read the docs documentation, but here, right in here, is all of the commands, the standard commands that you can use to talk to filter wheels and everything else. So it's all already there. You load this in, and depending on what you want to talk to, it will, all the dirty work of the protocol is finished. And then at the other end, for devices, if you wanted to write a new controller for a new focuser that you've just built, you can write it in Python and then expose the Alpaca interface through another library we have, and that's it.
Yeah.
Every Windows program out there can talk to that Python driver on a Raspberry Pi today.
Wow.
Through the chooser. So it's all tied together, both directions.
Yep.
That's what people don't realize, and this is why I really appreciate the chance of getting on here. And I'm hoping next time, if I get on in another 6 months, I can avoid getting blasted with the off the rails award. Or,
No, you weren't off the rails. It's just because you said the word.
I apologize. That's just
Hey,
my passion gets away from me.
No. Listen, in all fairness, you were not even off the rails. You just said the words, and you know that's.
Oh boy.
See what happens, Bob, is we all go through that where we just go off the rails, and then Dan hits that button. So it just
it doesn't matter.
I'm telling you, no,
it's good.
Doesn't.
it's a
very
badge of honor,
good.
You're right.
I should. I'll be sure, and I have a coffee group in the morning, and I assume this will eventually be saved on YouTube, and I'll go in and try to find that moment, and I'll play it for them. They know me really well, so they'll go, that's perfect. They totally busted you for how you are.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
They want me to hit the button again because you said the words. Tom's like, it's an honor to have the button pushed for you. So it's like a badge of honor.
It is.
OTR. I shouldn't have said it. Somebody goes, "Oh, you said it again. Push the button." Let's see. All right. I don't see another question that
I don't see one either. So Dan, Bob, thank you really again for coming back out and hanging out with us. I mean, it's always great, and a pleasure to have you on. So you're always more than welcome. And like you say, another 6 months, more than welcome. Hey, come and hang out with us. And maybe
Peter's
Dan
the
will
one
send
who
you
got
some more
me.
swag. Maybe Dan will send you some
Peter's the
more
one
swag.
who brokered this originally.
Yeah,
so thank you, Peter.
Absolutely.
He is, and thank you for the opportunity. And I'm on the Ascom users and developers, but the key here, if you go to that ascom-standards.org site, you'll go to how you can get in touch with us and all of that. And but I'm going to give you the.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question. How can people reach out to you if they have questions or they want to, if they ask people, because we get a lot of our viewers who aren't always live, on our live show. We get a lot of them who are who are here when they're watching through replay. So yeah, it would be great if you can share, how they can get out, how they can reach out to you and your team. That would be fantastic.
I closed my chat. Just let me get back to it, and shall I put it in the chat?
I can put it in
I'll tell you what.
if you want. If it's a link,
okay,
you're not
then
going to be able to do it anyway. So.
The best place to talk to any of us,
right,
is the. I'm going to get to the home. All right, and I'll try to make this shareable. It's this group right here. And there's a link to that on the main site. But can you see this okay?
Yep.
How about can you see the address box though? It doesn't look like there's something not right about that.
You want
to
hold on. I'm gonna
Subscribe on
and reshare, because I learned that's how you choose a different sharing scheme.
Yep.
And then share this. There we go. All right. Right up here. And if you can expand that somehow, ascomtalk.groups.io. And if you just put Ascom Talk into the groups.io webpage, you'll get to this.
ascomtalk.groups.io, right?
/G/help. That is a forum system, but it works over email. So you can participate, like a lot of forum systems, you can participate with your email client also, which is pretty cool. So in the messages, you can see here some of the things. And so you can just post your questions here, and there's not just me, but other people in there that will try to help you. There's quite a few questions that come up. You can see there's a lot of activity here.
Okay, just so you know, and something that I've been watching recently, because our Twitter following has been growing quite a bit. We're over 1,100 people on Twitter. Just so you know, even though we only had about 33 people watching here on Twitter, the live show got 1,573 views so far. So
holy catfish!
So I'm looking at it right now.
Wow.
It's right there. It's 1,573 views. So
Bob, they love you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So it's
maybe I've
yeah, we got to blame that on Dylan Rees. So Dylan has a wonderful Twitter following, and he does kind of spread the word out on Twitter for us.
He does.
So,
he definitely spreads the word out there. So
everything I put out, he retweets and sends out to the masses. So
we really appreciate that, man. Really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. So we do have to do a giveaway before we get out of here. We're giving away a free year subscription to IP4AP tonight. So
nice.
We're going to do that real
full
quick.
year, you know, you know what, IP4AP is great. I mean, Master of the Pix Insight is awesome, but if you are also a Photoshop user as well as a Pix Insight user, IP4AP is the subscription, you know, for you, because it has both. It has Photoshop as well as Pix Insight for, you know, to help you with your process, you know, learning these tools for processing and getting the best out of your image, you know, no matter which, you know, platform of those two you're using, piece of software you're using. So I started out with IP4AP. That was one of my first subscriptions when I first got started, because I was learning, you know, through Photoshop, and I think it was one that was really, really cool for me. So no, this is a great when you get a year's worth of it too. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So let me grab this up. I know I have it on one of my 1,500 windows I have open here. So let me see if I could grab it. Let's see, not that one. There it is. And we'll bring up the lovely window here. So here we go. So
and how many do we have? You know, how many entries do we have here?
We're one shy of 150.
Wow, 149.
So 149 people. And it does say Masters of Pix Insight in there, but it's MOP and IP4AP. So it's the same giveaway. And if you're new and you want to sign up to the giveaways, go to www.astroworldweb.com and go to the contests tab, and you'll see the giveaways. And be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for new Optolong filters that are going to be coming quite soon. I spoke to Jessica Hahn, and we're working on a NEAF giveaway too. And that's a giveaway that you have to be there to win. So you'll have to be there to sign up and be there to win. So that's going to be on the schedule that hopefully I can get out by the end of the month. It's going to be really cool. So anyway, here we go. Free year subscription to IP4AP. Let's spin the wheel. I want to put music on this wheel, but they won't let me. But let's see. And here we go, round and round, round and round.
And
Steinmetz@me.com. I know that email. I just don't know where it's going. So Steinmetz, you'll get a message. I know that email. I know I've sent that. I've sent an email to that person before. But so congratulations to Steinmetz. Well, I'll send you an email to you and Pete Proul, who runs the admin and a lot of other stuff with IP4AP Message Pixel site, and he'll give you the voucher and how to kind of get in touch with him and redeem your free year subscription to IP4AP. Pretty cool. Awesome. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Next week is Pete, right? I'm sorry, Friday. Friday is Pete. Pete's gonna. You're ready for Friday, Pete?
I'll be ready for Friday.
That doesn't sound very convincing there, Pete. I don't know. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll be ready. Don't worry about it. I'll be fine.
I just got to add a couple more slides to it, and we'll be ready.
Cool. Very good. I know I saw Carlos Aragon in the chat tonight from Reach for the Stars. So if those of you who don't know what Reach for the Stars is, go to their website, rftstars.com. And you know what the funny thing, I told everybody about the fundraiser we did at my astronomy group, because it was our first meeting of the month after, so it was February. I told them what we were able to do and how we raised, Bob, I don't know if you know this, but we raised over $2,000 of equipment and cash to go to Reach for the Stars. And Eric, since it's your brainchild, why don't you tell Bob what Reach for the Stars is about and the rest of our members real quick?
Yeah. Carlos and his wife, they have started an outreach and 501c for called Reach for the Stars. It is in I believe in Tucson, Arizona.
Yep.
And what they do is they started. These are two Air Force veterans who wanted, through just their own heart and love for astronomy, through the trials and things they went through, they wanted to give back to their community, especially to kids that they see that are dealing with, how kids, especially nowadays, dealing with a lot of mental health issues, as well as their families, helping to support them, and as well as also trying to, help live day to day and putting food on the table and things like that, and supporting their families and these kids. So Carlos and his wife developed Reach for the Stars, and basically what they do is they help these kids through through STEM and through astronomy to help them with dealing with depression and other mental health issues that these kids deal with, and give them an outlet, an opportunity to let them know and to see something that's bigger than themselves, and help them embrace something that's bigger than themselves and find an outlet, a positive outlet, as well as helping, these families. They give meals and they give food to families who are in need or who are less fortunate, and they do a wonderful thing for these kids and for these families. So rftstars.com is the website. If you decide, you can donate to them directly from their website. You can donate equipment if you have any previously owned or, some equipment that you've used and you're not really using it anymore, and you'd like to, make sure it goes to a worthwhile group of people who are going to be able to get use out of it, you can get a tax donation or tax write-off from them, for that. So, but yeah, go to rftstars.com and you can hear about and listen to their story and read about these kids and the families that Carlos and his wife, how they touched and help out these families. So I was really proud, and happy to help out, and do my little part to bring them, to our community and group. And again, what we've done for them, what we did for them back in January, I think was just awesome.
January 11th.
So,
yeah.
What was the URL? I got RFC stars, but I don't think that's right.
RFT is in Tom.
RFT. Yeah, reach for the stars.
Reach for the stars. Got it.
RFTstars.com.
RFTstars.com.
There's a little video at the bottom with him and his wife on how to, what they do and what, how it all became about.
Nice.
But his story is pretty. If you ever have a chance, just go to the show that we had in January and just play the first 25 minutes of it, and it tells you about his trials and tribulations and what he went through is nothing less than remarkable. Almost died, dealt with depression, whole big thing, and turned his entire life around and came up with this after he met his wife. And it's pretty a self-success story, and it's really uplifting, and it's really heartening that somebody actually did something like this. It's really cool.
I'm gonna look this over. This looks
like
really
I said,
good.
For Carlos and his wife, who are both, military veterans, Dan was saying, they've gone through their trials and tribulations. Carlos was injured in the line of duty, in service to our country, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to continue his dream of continuing his career in the military, and he had to be discharged medically.
Yep.
But unfortunately, he through all of the injuries he went through being in the service, he ended up getting addicted to painkillers, and it took a toll on him and his him and his life. He was homeless for a while, but he turned his life around. He met his wife, and they worked together to turn their lives around and uplift each other. And now they're uplifting these kids and helping these kids do what they do. Let them know that, hey, they're not alone. They understand that they care.
Right.
One of our members donated an AVX mount that they weren't using anymore, that worked perfectly. Ton of cash that just came through it turned out to be about $975 in cash, and this is only in a 2-hour show, mind you, so this is only during the show.
Not bad.
And AstroWorld also raised that to the nearest $100, so after YouTube gets his cut and all that kind of stuff, and I also had a Revolution Imager sitting here that they use on another mount that they have, and they wanted another one. So I said, "You want one? I got one right here. I'm not using it. Here you go." And I donated that to them as well. Perfect. So, and I have their check right here. I'm just waiting to send that out with the imager, and so they should be getting that check probably by the end of the month. So
awesome.
Yeah. So that being said, I didn't want it to be, reach, but it was a good time to bring it up. So, that being said, Bob, thank you again so much for hanging out. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and doing the whole AstroWorld thing. And you've been a friend of the show for a year and a half now, and you have carte blanche. You ever want to come on? You get something that that's groundbreaking for Ascom Alpaca or even DC3. Feel free to kind of say, "Hey, Dan, I want to come on," or Pete, tell Dan I want to come on. Whatever works for you.
Okay.
You're more than welcome anytime to come on.
Well, we have some stuff coming up. You got a little preview of it this evening, but we have some things coming up along the lines of the integrity stuff I was talking about. And so Yeah, we
Oh.
might want to do that.
Oh, we expect the
be great.
big AstroWorld exclusive premiere right here. So
Okay. Well, it's always fun coming on here. This is so relaxed. I don't, I on purpose I didn't build a big formal presentation. I just kind of wanted to see where the questions went and where you guys wanted to know, and then I kind of drifted around. And if
That's fine.
My passion gets the better of me sometimes. And for
No,
that, I apologize.
it's actually refreshing, Bob. So don't even think of that as a bad thing. Pat, there's nothing worse than having somebody coming on the show for 2 hours that has no passion and is just. And
Well, at least it's positive energy, and
yes,
not
yes,
me
absolutely.
yelling
I don't
about
think
some
anybody.
stupid
I don't
idiot
think anybody
or,
in this
that
community
kind of
has
stuff.
negative energy. It's just the presentation kind of is a little blah sometimes. Oh, we got a new member. Tom Peter joined the Black Hole membership. So
Oh, all right.
thank you,
Right
Tom.
on.
I'll put you
All right, Tom.
put you on the slide. Thank you so much. I gotta get
And
more
thank
shirts.
you, Billy's, for that.
And Tom, you know
Billy's
what?
Astro.
And I'm gonna say something real quick, and it's gonna sound kind of horrible. Just don't take it that way. You should join the Patreon membership and cancel this one if you want to support us, because you get more perks from. If you don't care about the perks, feel free to stay where you are, but you get T-shirts and stickers, and every 3 months for your first year, you get a whole bunch of stuff. So I mean, there you
I
go.
got this thing, man. This is really cool.
That's for special. That's for special people. That's for Quasar and higher, and people that have been on the show. I give everybody. Not everybody. Anybody who wants them a little polo shirt. So, but anyway, awesome. So thank you so much. I guess Eric. Final thoughts, Eric?
No, again, Bob, thank you. Pete, thanks for bringing Bob back with us. I really appreciate it. Great work there, man. And no, just again, a great show. Thank you to our viewer membership for your participation. Some great questions were thrown out there, so we really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to Pete's presentation on Friday, and just having a great time.
Pete?
Bob, thank you. And we'll see you definitely in April. We'll get together.
Are you going to Neve?
Yeah, we're not, as a company, we're not having a booth, but I found with our position in the market now being very well established and having a higher end niche audience, it makes no sense for us to have a table at NEAF. And the last couple of conferences we've gone to for AAVSO and AIC
Right.
in San Jose, I went as a walk-in person and not with a table, and it worked great because I was able to sit and have lunch with people. I was able to attend conferences. It made it much easier for me to connect, and a lot of our customers then had a chance to just sit and talk, whereas if we have a table, we're just stuck there and nobody ever wants to see a demo. So I always play like old submarine movies and other stuff on the screen. And so it's just kind of ridiculous. Anyway, for us, it's much better. So I will be there. I will be there for both NEAIC and NEAF.
Well, Pete and I will be there. Eric will be there at NEAF, and we fully expect you to pick up a timesheet from the AstroWorld booth, because AstroWorld has a booth at NEAF, and there's going to be a group picture at NEAF at a time, don't know when, but there's going to be a group picture with anybody who's like people in the chat and whatever, people that have been on the show.
Cool.
And it's going to be a group picture for that in front of the AstroWorld booth, probably about mid-afternoon on Saturday and mid-afternoon on Sunday.
Perfect.
So we
Okay,
expect you to come and hang out
mid-afternoon on Sunday.
Well, it
I'm gonna
depends,
have to get back here.
But yeah, be there on Saturday. Great.
So Saturday,
Saturday, I'll definitely make it.
Yeah. So again, you're more than welcome to come, and if you want to hang out at our booth, you're more than welcome to hang out at our booth too. So
I may do that. Thank
you.
you.
All right, everybody. Well, Everybody have a good night. It is now the end of the show. It's 11 o'clock, 11:03. Don't forget, Friday we have Pete's. Pete's going to be talking. You're talking about the cameras, right? This camera specs, right?
Camera specs, definitions, gain, offsets, you name it. So it's going to be about 15 pages on PowerPoint. So we'll be covering everything from image scale, you name it.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And let me tell you, stuff like that, people kind of gloss over sometimes and don't fully understand the consequences of not understanding a certain spec. So it's going to be really, really cool to see Pete's outlook on that. So I'm looking really forward to that. But Bob, again, thank you so much for coming on. Again, you have a great night, and you have an open invite to whenever you want to come and hang out with us on the show. So don't be afraid to ask.
And real quick, Dylan and everybody else, just to let you guys know, Friday is the last night for the tree.
Oh,
Friday is the last night for the tree. My son will be here on Sunday, and so we're going to celebrate a late holiday, and then we're taking it down. So Sunday's the last night of the tree.
that tree is like the fifth honeymooner here. So I mean, it's like we're gonna miss the tree, but
yeah.
Well, you got two unopened presents under there. Are you gonna open those up?
Yeah, those are from my son. He's got those two.
All right, there they are.
So they're there, so he'll be opening up a few presents when he gets home.
They better be good. They've been there for like 4 months, so I mean,
yeah, they've
hopefully they're not chocolate or something.
Yeah, really, they're not perishable, are they?
No,
right.
You don't have like a hamster in there or something.
Yeah,
right?
no, I think got into them already if that would have been it.
What's that smell?
Really.
Exactly. What's that smell?
All right, everybody, have a good night. Don't forget to come and hang out with us on Friday night. Great show. Thank you again, Bob, everybody, and thanks, Eric and Pete.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you soon. So we'll see you in a couple days. So everybody have a good night. Have a good week, and enjoy your Saturday and your Friday and Thursday. There you go. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. And remember, as always, keep imaging, keep educating, and clear skies. And we'll see you Friday night.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night, everybody. See you Friday.